Hi everyone, thanks for being here today. Remember that we have a big exam on Monday. Seniors, that's the last exam you'll take besides our project. That's a pretty big grade for you. And if for some reason you will be absent on Monday, remember you need to come and see me on Friday to take the exam during Flex. Okay, so let's talk about the first activity you're going to do. You're going to do this warm-up, which is a partner practice quiz. You can get this from the substitute, and you're going to download this data. I already have it downloaded here. When I look at the practice quiz, I see some information. It asks me about the explanatory variable and the response variable. The explanatory variable is going to be the day because the speed is responding to the day. Remember, as the days go on, the typing and the speed of the typing got faster. So then I'm going to take this information, I'm going to create a scatter plot with a least squares line or regression equation. So I'm going to go to Insert, I'm going to get a scatter plot here, and then I'm going to go to Add Chart Element. I'm going to go to Trend Line, I'm going to go to Linear. Okay, I can go a step further and I can go to Format Trend Line, and I can display the equation, and I'm just going to display the r squared too. Okay, I'm going to make this a little bigger. Okay, so I just made it a little bigger and then I kind of went further and formatted it a little bit here. Okay, great. So I've got my trend line and it's looking pretty good. I definitely see a pretty big outlier there. And first though, I'm going to write my trend line down. I'm going to write down, and I'm going to round to the nearest hundredth. So I'm going to write down y equals 1.99x plus 23.52. I really believe there's an outlier that looks pretty big here, and it's definitely a point of influence, and it's this 35 run right here, 3569. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Control X, get it out of there, and I'm going to Control V and put it somewhere else. Okay? It shouldn't be in my data anymore, and in fact, I'm just going to delete. Oops. Okay, there we go. So I've got it out of there right now, and it's to the side. Okay, and I've got my line looking great, and I kind of put it to the side. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to list that point out, and it was 3569. And a good reason to get it, to eliminate this, it's obviously 2 weeks after everything had passed, and so it's not really around the rest of my data. Okay, now I'm going to recalculate the least squares regression line with that point eliminated, and I'm going to plot it again. Okay? So I'm going to recalculate this right here. And I'm actually just going to keep both graphs just for the sake of knowing it and comparing them. And so now I'm going to re-grab this right here. And I'm going to Insert. And there we go. That looks a lot better without that outlier. Okay, so I recalculated it, and yeah, that definitely changed it a little bit there, and I've got a new equation. I'm going to find the correlation coefficient r and explain its significance. I've got r squared right there, and I actually need r. So I'm going to have to take the square root of that. Okay, so I went a little out of order here. Before I find the r squared, I'm actually going to write down my new equation, which was speed equals 3.02, rounding to the nearest hundred, times the day, plus 14.65. And what the slope is telling me, remind yourself that is the slope is the change in y over the change in x. Okay? So if I think about that, remember my day, I've got 3.02. And for every 1 day of increase, the speed of the typing goes up 3.02 words per minute. Because remember they said at the beginning that it was words per minute. It's the second sentence or third sentence. The speed is recorded in words per minute. So for every 1 day of increase, the speed goes up 3.02 words per minute. Okay, so now I'm going to find that r squared value, and I'm just going to take the square root of 0.95. That's literally what I'm doing right here. And that's looking really good that it's 0.95. So let's take the square root of it. 9568. And I get 0.98 as my r. Okay, that's number 8. That's a huge significance right there. And that's really great that we got an r squared, or an r value of 0.98, because that means a strong positive association between the days. Okay, number 9 says find the coefficient of determination r squared, where we're going to actually go to data. And you will need to know this for your test, so that's why I'm showing this to you right now. So you're going to go to data and you're going to click on data analysis. Remember that data analysis tool pack? And you're going to go down to regression. You can kind of move this up and down. You're going to click on regression, you're going to press OK. Okay, and what you're going to do is you are going to first do your y. So I'm going to just calculate my y. Okay, then I'm going to do my x. Okay, and then look at, there's a bunch of stuff I can get on here, but I just want to click on residual plots, okay, because it's going to give that to me. And I want to do a new worksheet, and I'm going to do residual right here. Okay, and it's going to open that up. Okay, there's a lot more information we can get here. And right now I chose to keep my outlier. Okay, so let's go back and answer number 12 using the model. I want you to be using the model that is for number 6, okay? Okay, so I used my equation, I substituted 19 for x, and I got 72.03 words per minute. Now let's look at the residual on day 19. So I'm going to go to my residual plot right over here. Okay, and I'm looking at day 19, and look, I can actually go over here. Look at this, and I can kind of estimate day 19, and it looks like it is about -4, because that's -5. I mean, that's an extreme estimate, but that's how I'm finding out what my actual residual was. Okay, let's look at the rest of this. On what day would you expect to reach 50 words per mile, or words per hour? I'm going to go back for my data here. It appears as if I'm expecting it about day 10 or 11 here. That's about 50 right there, so probably about day 10 or 11. For what days are the residuals clearly positive? Well, let's look at that. It's when they're above the line. So like day 6, day 7, day 10, day 12, day 14, and then it looks like to be about day 16. And on your next test, we'll obviously have everything clearly labeled, but remember, positive residuals are above the line, negatives are below the line. Number 16, is there evidence that the least squares regression is a good model for this data? No, actually, because look at this right here. Let's take a look back at this plot again. And I want you to kind of look at this. I know I said this, and see how if you actually look at this. Look at what's going on here. It kind of looks like there's a pattern going on, doesn't it? So I want you to take a moment and stop and just think about that for a second. Okay, so look at this right here, this residual plot right here, what's going on. It looks like there's a pattern. And do we want a pattern for our residual plots? No, we don't want a pattern, okay? So this is not a good model, okay? The last one, if we wanted to predict the student's typing speed 10 weeks after the course started, give 2 reasons why this is dangerous. Extrapolation is always dangerous, and in typing, the straight line relationship will not continue forever. So you really need to make sure that you don't do that. Okay, so that's how you do this worksheet here. Let's talk about what the rest of the period is that you're going to do. So, what will be on the exam? This is extremely important that you have this information here. So let's look at this right here. Okay, folks, so we've talked about all sorts of different things. We've talked about bias, we've talked about all these things. So first off, make sure you know and everything's in your unit organizer. You should have written down the bias information because we did that in class. But if you were not here when we talked about sampling methods, please make sure that you have that written down. There are a bunch of different ones, but let's just kind of go through what they are. There's the simple random sample, the systematic, stratified, cluster, and census. I'm going to kind of go through quickly, and you're going to have to verbally write down what I'm saying. And you can put this either in your notebook or on your unit organizer. Okay? So first off, a simple random sample. How we do it, it's a table of random numbers, or a lottery determines who is chosen. The advantage is that everyone has an equal chance of being chosen, but the disadvantage is the population can be too large and the method is impractical. So a simple random sample could be where we give, we take people's ID numbers and then we choose them that way. Okay, the next one I have after the simple random sample, that's the SRS by the way, is systematic sampling. Okay, after we have our sample size, we take every nth record as selected from the population. So for instance, let's say we take freshmen and then we have them walk through the door one by one and we choose every third one. It's easy to select people and it's evenly spread out, but we could be biased. People could know your pattern and they can go through that and then they could see what's hidden. Okay, the third one I have is stratified. Okay, stratified sampling, we identify relevant groups, and random sampling is used to select a sufficient number of subjects from each. Every unit has the same chance of being chosen, and so that's an advantage, and it serves representation of minority groups, but it's also complicated to determine groups, and the groups can be too small. So that's stratified sampling. A cluster sample, that's right here, is we break the population into mixed heterogeneous groups, and each group represents everyone in the population. So the advantage is it's easy to set up, but the sampling error can be higher. So when I think of stratified sampling, I kind of think about that as more as like choosing its grade levels. But if we just wanted to think even just purely based on like race or gender, there could be not the same in every grade level. So instead, if we use a cluster sample, we take a certain amount of people from each grade level, and then hopefully that has less bias and it's a mixed group. Okay, lastly, a census. I'm just taking this straight from something up here. A census is an official count or survey of a population, typically recording various details. We take a census every 10 years, so hopefully you've seen that. Okay? Okay, so make sure on your test that you know all the R's, what a residual is, what the correlation coefficient is, what R squared is, and what the regression line is. Make sure you know the difference between residual and R squared. Okay? Make sure that's in your notes. Make sure you know that the correlation coefficient is, and you know all the information right here about this survey: strong, weak, very strong, moderate. Make sure you know how to find the regression equation. You will be asked to find the slope and be able to use this information, find the y-intercept, okay? This is so important right here. I'm kind of highlighting this because I'm still seeing people not do this correctly, okay? Make sure this is in your notes. Extrapolations are often wrong. Make sure you know that information. 4 ways a point can be considered an outlier. We did this last class. You really need to make sure you know about influential points, okay? That's really what we're going to talk about with outliers, if it's an influential point or not, and if it's changing that. We just talked about this selection bias. Make sure you know that information there. We talked about this. We put this on our notes. If you didn't get it, ask a partner, okay? Lastly, you're going to work on some review. Just so you know, on Canvas, it does go through these slides that I just put up here. It kind of keeps walking through. It even gives some more information that's, I think, even better. So make sure you're kind of going through that and that you have all that information. It's a lot going on there. Okay? And lastly, there's going to be review questions. The sub will hand it out, and the answers are on the back. Okay? Well, if you have any other questions, please feel free to come see me Friday during Flex. Thank you.